welcome to many new people. Today we have 12 new liaisons. We have new board members, Pam Lear and Ben Leal. And we also have new advisory council members who are with us today, Sophia Johnson, Joan Hill, Lisa Stewart, and Dawn Turbelet. So this is a really, really exciting meeting. So as a way to get us warmed up, we are going to use the chat. And we want to encourage you all to use the chat, throughout this. And then we will also be doing our breakout meetings. So for our introductions, if you put this into the chat, you can start with who you are, what United to Learn is, and why you are here. So I am Carol Golia. United to Learn is hope. And I am here for our future because I believe in community movements for good. And then I'll call on some of you all as you enter as well. Laura Day, you can do a shout out.
What am I shouting out?
You're shouting out your name, what United to Learn.
My thing. Oh, I was typing it. Yes, I'm ready. I'm Laura Day, everyone. United to Learn, I was writing, is the best, but I guess I could also say United to Learn is the best model for education I've seen in the country. And I'm here because this matters to me the most. And I believe education equity is everything. So that's what I'll say. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay, Mr. Potter.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Philip Potter, principal at Walnut Hill. I would say United to Learn's family. And I'm here because I think we see eye to eye on the work and how important it is. And doing that work side by side means a world of difference to my school and also all the schools in our cluster.
That's great. Lena, one of our outstanding liaisons. Oh, you're on mute.
Are you asking me?
I was asking Lena. I think she was talking, but she was on mute.
Here I am.
All right.
Hi, I am Lena Godat, and I'm the school liaison for McShann Elementary. And United to Learn to me is an organization that invests in our most valuable resource, and that is our elementary school children, so we can give them the best opportunities for a bright future. And I am here because I really care about Dallas County, and I want DISD to become a premier provider of education in Texas and in the country.
That's great. Okay, maybe one more. Karen Pollock.
Okay. Am I unmuted? No.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Karen Pollock, and United to Learn does the work every day and is constantly adapting to whatever's happening out there, which I love. And I am here because I believe in United to Learn and their mission and the continuous impact it has on children and teachers in our community.
That is outstanding. Actually, I want to do two more. Deanne Reimer.
Morning, I'm Deanne Reamer, and United to Learn is committed to equal access for all students to learn and lead. And I'm here because I believe in the work we do.
That's great. And Lisa Stewart.
See if I can come off mute. Hey, I'm Lisa Stewart. I'm here because Highland Park United Methodist Church. I'm Director of Outreach at Highland Park United Methodist Church, and I believe that together, Highland Park United Methodist Church and United to Learn can make a difference in Dallas and help level the playing field for the children that we serve together.
Okay, that is great. And I would love it if everybody could put, I know lots and lots of people are putting their comments in there. So if you haven't put your comments in there, we would love to get those in the chat so that we can have a record of them. As we think about our testimonials and messages, and this is just means so much to all of us, that your investment in our future, and our kids are just the students. That is the future. So thank you very, very much for being here. Next, we will go into an update from Dallas ISD. We are so lucky that Angie Torres, who is the executive director over the TJ and Conrad feeder patterns, so all 11 elementary campuses. She's been in the district for 16 years, and she has outstanding results. She is here to give us an overview of how Dallas ISD is doing right now.
Good morning. Thank you, Carol. So again, I'm Angie Torres, the Executive Director of Conrad and TJ Cluster. And the purpose of this morning's information is really twofold. Number one, it's to share a few facts on how our new reality with COVID-19 has affected one of our 11 campuses and still thriving. And number two, to share how Learning Launch has been such a blessing for all of the 11 campuses that I serve during our new reality with COVID-19. And so first and foremost, if you see the slide that's in front of you, for the Conrad and the Thomas Jefferson cluster, we have a total of 3,773 students who are attending face-to-face in all of our 11 campuses. There are 2,357 that are attending virtually. And then our total enrollment, virtual and face-to-face, are 6,155 total students. And our second slide that you will see in front of you is a slide that has the district COVID-19 information from our COVID-19 dashboard. And that information provided for you on the left-hand side of this slide is information from the district. And it is just basically talking to us and showing us basically that we have specific COVID cases for campus staff, for central staff, and students. On the right-hand side of the slide is information that is very specific to one of our specific campuses, which is statistics on the cases at Walnut Hill. So although the information states that the last update was yesterday at, I believe it says 5 p.m., and it says that we have 7 confirmed cases, I believe that the information is just a bit lag, and they're working on that information, but I believe right now we have 12 confirmed cases at Walnut Hill. And I share this information not to share the information specifically about like COVID-19 cases in the district or even Walnut Hill's COVID-19 cases in depth, but to showcase that even though we are truly amidst a new reality with the new COVID-19 pandemic, safety and instruction has been our top priority for our staff and our students. And that's what's really important here. Becoming familiarized with being able to teach face-to-face and then having virtual teaching as well has been a bit challenging for all of us. It's a new type of learning. However, our campuses have had the assistance from United to Learn, which is our very close-knit partner in education. They have helped with so many resources, with all the way from SEL, instructional pieces, and even just, furniture, pieces that our campuses have all been blessed in receiving. And so with the help of Learning Launch, it has helped our teachers for receiving our face-to-face instruction with students through the abundance of the Learning Launch initiatives this year. So I would like to take a moment to share some quotes about our campus communities and what they're saying regarding the Learning Launch initiatives. And I'm trying to get it up, just a second. It is not cooperating with me today. I will share that in just a second. But before I do that, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to highlight Walnut Hill Elementary staff and students, as well as Principal Potter. So this nested learning community has been such a resilient community who has survived not only our tornado, mind you, that has affected his entire campus and community, but now COVID-19, which has also affected his campus more than any other campus in my cluster. However, if you were able to see what I have seen, you would not believe that this nested learning community has been through so much. So much credit goes to the leadership of Principal Potter, who leads with heart and he leads with tenacity. And we're so fortunate to have such a remarkable leader as Mr. Potter, who has been charged to lead Walnut Hill. So this morning, he will be taking you on a tour. So we have a surprise, right? So that you get to see a glimpse of the wonderful things that are transpiring at Walnut Hill. So I introduce to you Mr. Philip Potter, the principal of one of our 2 National Blue Ribbon schools in the cluster at Walnut Hill. And so Mr. Potter, as I'm getting my little quotes up, I would like for you to just talk to the group about Walnut Hill, all the wonderful things that are transpiring, and then be able to take them on a tour and a glimpse of what's transpiring.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Torres, for the introduction. And I just want to say thank you to Ms. Torres for her leadership. One of the things we appreciate most as principals, she creates conditions as a leader for us to be able to step up and lead. And that's really, really important and key to our work. So I will just say that the reason we're able to do the things that we are able to do is because of a resilient staff, number one, and a dedicated community. Our parents are sticking with us through trial and adversity. Our staff has a growth mindset and they just persevere. It's really, there's really no magic potion or no secret thing to it. It's really just a mindset and a commitment. And so even though we've had a lot of challenges, that has really been the key ingredient that pushes us forward. And so you'll see in the video, you know, it was taken yesterday because we really want you to see really what's going on and what it looks like. And so we tried to get it as close to a virtual tour, as close as we could in real time to be able to see that. I will just say in terms of partnership, you know, United to Learn is not just walking with us through this. I've had the opportunity to work with United to Learn since I was an assistant principal at W.T. White in piloting innovative reading programs at Obadiah Knight that helped prepare bilingual educators. Part of that experience helped me want to get into elementary education because I saw what the impact was. And so I have this opportunity, but their impact is far reaching. Learning Launch really helps set our campus and every campus on the right foot every single year and being able to close the gap in providing resources, materials, and access, which is equity work, to things that we may not be able to get our hands on immediately as we start that school year. And so it's just really appreciated. So I look forward to having you connect with our campus and enjoying a virtual tour at Walnut Hill. Welcome to Walnut Hill Elementary and our virtual tour. Today you will see the resilience of our staff and students and the enduring commitment to excellence in action. While safety is our #1 priority at Walnut Hill, we are committed to providing a world-class educational experience to all of our students, regardless of the challenges in our world and our own community. We hope that you enjoy a glimpse inside our classrooms and share the pride we have in the accomplishments of our students and staff. Thanks for joining us today.
table right there at the picture that you have on Nearpod, and look at the lines that are pointing down, right? How many lines do you see? You can use your fingers to let me know. Okay, I just see just a few of you. That's less than half of the class for people. So let me ask that question again. So how many lines do you see? Okay, that's more people. I appreciate that.
Work that is incorrect, either grammatically, or like it doesn't make sense in your sentence.
All right, good. I like the words that he used. He said, fix something. Yeah, when we do editing, we fix something. Any other word that you guys remember when we say editing?
Not necessarily.
Natalia. Yeah, when we say look for stuff, we say we try to find mistakes. Everyone say editing?
Editing.
Find mistakes.
Find mistakes.
All right, stop. Who can tell me why did I stop after number 5? What did I make? A 5 what? A 5 frame. No, it is a 5 frame. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So like a label, this is 5. This is 6. And this is 7.
Thank you so much, Mr. Potter and Ms. Torres. Does anyone have any questions for them about what's going on in the schools right now? You can type it in the chat or just ask yourself.
This is Byron. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Byron.
I did have a question, just really general pulse. How are families responding to coming back on campus? How are they flexing with, I think, our new normal of what school looks like? Even though young people are returning, of course, it feels different in a sense. Have you seen? I would say a social and emotional response from our families that is equivalent to what we would be asking for from our many of our young people. What are your thoughts?
I would say yes to that, Byron. Thank you for that question. And the reason, and I want to give a little context to this just in brief. Part of what we've been committed to as a campus is community transparency in our communication. And so just trying to, let people know so that we can make sense of what's happening. We've worked hand in hand with Ms. Torres and school leadership, our health services department, our communications department, to really all be on the same page. And so part of that social emotional response is connecting with parents, reaching out, making phone calls, answering questions. And I'll give you an example. One way that we try to mitigate some concern, because, when you find out you have a case, there's a lot of questions. And so we went ahead and were able to get communication. We were notified on a Sunday at 12 o'clock of our first positive case, but we worked as a team to get communication out that evening before parents went, so that they would know, and they would, if that impacted their choice on whether or not they sent their children to school, because our grades from first through sixth grade would be reporting for the first time. We really tried to make sure that we were being transparent. But we've also had support systems. Our counselor has been a rock for our teachers and our students and our parents, and taking a lot of calls. Our nurse, our APs, everybody stepped up into a role to make sure that we're able to answer questions. And through doing that, we're able to kind of bring the level of concern down because it gives people clarity on what's happening. And so I think that's been very helpful.
And I would add, Byron, that as a cluster, I think our leaders have been fantastic with their transparency and just how they've actually led the campuses, and the families are feeling not as nervous as they have before because of the transparency and because of all the systems that we have in place. And so they feel comfortable knowing that, you know, we're doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that we're providing a safe environment for everyone on our campuses.
I have a question. I have a question, and it's relative to contact tracing, and if you are doing that, have been able to do that to determine the 12 cases that you have.
Yeah, so with contact tracing, you know, when we're notified, there's a lot of different things that happen, but our health services walks through us with that step by step. And we make sure that anyone identified as close contacts are gone, they go to quarantine. If someone shows up and they're symptomatic and they're like, hey, you know, I don't really feel well, we have a specific response protocol that we follow for that. And so, you know, folks may have to isolate and get a negative PCR COVID test so that they can get clearance to return to school or work if they're students or staff. And so there's protocols that we have in place, and there's also mitigation efforts whenever we recognize potential causes for spread or concern. We also take those out of the equation through quarantining close contacts.
Hi, this is Angela Woodson with Green Hill School. I had a comment and a question. I was very encouraged to see that. Thank you for allowing us a glimpse into the classrooms. And I was very encouraged to see that your classrooms look very similar to our classrooms here at Green Hill, with students having devices and the fiberglass around the desk. But my question is there something, your teachers, like, is there one thing that your teachers maybe need that they don't have, or if there was a wish list for teachers, what are some of the things that they need?
You know, I think I would be remiss if I didn't capture their voice in that and really touch base with them specifically on that. Some of the things that they need right now most are just us to be able to make sense of how to streamline our efforts to make sure that the work and safety is the main thing. And so we've really been working with Ms. Torres and our cluster and our campus levels at trying to continually refine our systems to make sure we can take whatever we can off the teacher's plate so they can focus on doing the work safely and effectively. So care and excellence is the theme. And right now, there's not really a tangible piece. I think our district stepped up huge with technology distribution, and that's equity work. And we're committed to that 100% as a district. And so we want to just encourage that theme. And we're as a cluster and a campus engaged in equity work and what that means. That's a journey. That's not a 1 PD professional development session. So right now, some of the things they need most aren't necessarily tangible. We feel very supported, and we feel that we have adequate resources to do the work effectively, but we're really trying to prioritize the non-tangible items right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm sure we have a whole lot more questions, so feel free to put them in the chat or to send them to us afterwards, and we'll see if we have more time at the end. But we want to move on to our next section, which is about advancing our culturally and historically responsive education. So Abby is going to take us through that.
Well, thanks everyone for joining this morning. Mr. Potter and Ms. Torres, especially for spending time with us, knowing just how busy your campuses are. We know that this is a balance in your life, and we appreciate it. And please, talk to your school liaison. I know Dawn Tribolette is an amazing champion for Walnut Hill, and I'm sure she'd be happy to take wish lists day by day. I think my favorite part of your video was watching those kids outside socially distanced. I think that you must have taught them an airplane technique to make sure that they had their 6 feet between one another. So thank you. That was really cool to see. Many of you probably attended our network meeting, and during which we did a deep dive into the current programming efforts we have around cultural competency in collaboration with our Dallas ISD public partner schools. But with many of you being new and all of you being our most trusted advisors, as we move to expand the number of Dallas ISD partners, now we have a footprint that stretches across our entire city. Our team thought that we would spend a little time today connecting the dots back to what I might call the business principles of United to Learn and how we think about addressing systemic inequities. So if I'm just completely honest, United to Learn and the founding team came together in what we felt was an uncomfortable reality of how outcomes were playing out in our own backyard, what systemic inequity looked like across really, Northwest Dallas. For some of us, probably me at the top of that list, it was a little bit of the rub of living a life of privilege while it was so different from what my upbringing was. And then making choices for the children who lived with me that I was raising that actually seemed too inaccessible to so many kiddos in our community. For others of us, I think it was seeing the pockets of success with the nonprofits we were working with, but not seeing those same successes play out on a large scale. And then there was the easy, stark contrast, right, in physical assets in our neighborhood. The discrepancy in those assets, the disparity in what we would learn about achievement, the disconnect that we felt by working in silos was enough to tell us that somehow the system was failing, even if none of us yet knew completely what was amiss. So, since we were going to be working in education, we made ourselves students of the work itself. And we did research and reading and watching podcasts, probably very similar to what we shared with you all as part of your pre-read. Luckily, we were founded right around the same time as the Commit Partnership, so we would have treasure troves of data to learn from, and much of it was startling. So similar to what you see on this screen today, there were tremendous disparities in college attainment between our Latinx and Black adults who were achieving college attainment at 1/3 or 2/3 at a rate of their white peers. Equally alarming, and I know we've shared with this with you before, was that those racial disparities were also playing out at much younger ages, as noted by our 3rd grade reading scores. And even within United to Learn, as we are all very proud of the incredible achievement that we have seen, especially across our partner schools, whose 3rd grade achievement outpaces even the state at this point. We notice that between Latin and Black children, there is a huge disparity with our white children, and that remains a constant issue to us all. We knew that there were reasons for what was transpiring in these outcomes. Decades and storied history of how we got here and what the ramifications were that were playing out in real time every day that we were only seeing pieces of. And these opportunity gaps were also playing out in classrooms and in the actual plant facilities where our children were going to school across our community. So if we took a really close look at Dallas ISD, and we are sharing some of this data that was also borrowed from the most recent bond presentation that was shared with many of you. We have hundreds of campuses across Dallas ISD. And quite honestly, a funding tax rate that is significantly out of balance. So filling these gaps seemed almost impossible. So that was the beginning of sort of our studying. Probably even more important than a lot of the data and research that we did was conversations. Conversations with many of you or your peers from private schools in the community, our public school staff and educators, investors, volunteers, outside public education experts, And we asked you more about what is the vision for success and what are the challenges that might be impeding that vision. So similar things to what we've already talked about today about resources and understanding that there's a time and a place to lean in. But we definitely need to get priorities from our partners and trust them as our leaders. So we sort of felt like, as Maya Angelou likes to remind us, you do the best you can until you know better. And then when you do better, well, I think we better do better. So we all agree that there's 90% of students attend public schools. So we have a responsibility to get public schools right, not only for ourselves, the example that we would set for the children we were raising in our home, but the children that we knew were our responsibility across our community. And there was also a priority around ensuring that there was a role for all of those who were coming together to be a part of it. But as Miguel Solis, who's not only a district trustee, but also a board member of United to Learn, likes to remind me, these were not always things that could get solved simply by nonprofits or the private sector. There was much work that had to start first at the district around governance and policy. And we are so proud that the district has, and will continue to do those things. But as Mr. Potter alluded to, sometimes setting the vision and aligning with campus plans might mean that there's still resource gaps along the way, which is why we were so excited to be able to create a collaborative model that would change the conversation. So now the conversation felt like it was a discourse among equals, whether we were from private schools, public schools, an investor, a volunteer, a board member, an outside expert, where we were really listening to each other and we were lifting up the assets, not only of our public school families, but of our educators, because we thought that if we came together, having changed that value paradigm, that would be able to reset the trajectory of achievement. And our listening tour has probably played out as the most important and fundamental part of this model. Through relationships formed, I believe that over the last few years, we have truly been changing lives, adults, teenagers, and our youngest learners by simply transforming the relationship between our partner schools and communities. As you've seen before, I know you've seen this slide, we developed these pillars all around a table. I bet there were at times that there were a dozen, and other times there were 18 of us crowded around a long conference room table, something we could not do in COVID world today. We were informed by the data, but remember again, the limitations of what a nonprofit can do and where public school funding might have stopped. Fundamental to this model is the belief that proximity would drive change, and dialogue at a rich level would point us in the direction of more innovative ways to push forward. We didn't only believe in the potential of every child who was the center, the focus of everything we were doing, but also every adult who was coming to work, recognizing that we had different roles but equal value in making sure that we hit our bullseye focus of driving student achievement. And over the years, these relationships, these trusted partnerships, wholly focused on impact, listening to each other, have driven literacy achievement. So we were more than honored when we were invited to consider embracing additional partners citywide. Recognizing that now almost half of our elementary schools not only have more than 90% students who are living in poverty, but they are also residing in some of our highest need zip codes across the city. Again, we think that listening will be absolutely paramount to our success. So we all of you included, maybe you guys at the top of the list, we get to work alongside and champion the success of 26,000 students attending 47 schools, and yes, bring along another 50+ partners who will get to know our students, get to know our educators, and watch and drive success for our entire community. And we know in this new normal, we are going to need everybody. COVID-19 and social injustices that we have watched play out over the last few months have only illuminated wider opportunity gaps. With so many of our families experiencing stressors on the rise, yes, a recovering economy, but in many cases, a slower return to employment for wage earners in the middle and lower earned levels. Still trying to settle into all of the protocols, campus by campus, and what that new paradigm of learning might look like, leaves us all a little concerned about also a potential looming learning loss. But in the wake of these unprecedented challenges, I know that you would agree with me that there isn't any other time in history more important to be united in principle and in practice to ignite this change. And we'll stick with our model. We'll stick with our proven model, beginning with SEL, teaching out what is the science behind toxic stress on a child's brain. How are we developing authentic school, family, community partnerships, and always embracing a student's cultural capital? What does that mean? Well, I can think about a Monday morning meeting that I got to observe where a teacher prompted the children to share how they were a leader from the moment they woke up until they got to school. And one young boy confidently shared how he warmed up his baby brother's bottle because grandma was still trying to dress the baby brother so that they could get out of the house in time for school. In that instance, in a circle with 16 other kiddos, the teacher was affirming the students' cultural heritage of multi-generational homes, obviously gaining some really critical information about additional responsibilities this very young boy would be juggling at home, and creating a real empathetic bond between the teacher, the adult, and the child. And I'll tell you, he was mighty proud of himself that morning too. Of course, in our work, we're not sidestepping any of the most difficult issues that are facing our families and our children. But these type of meetings, this type of professional development and support means that we're creating support systems similar to what Mr. Potter and Ms. Torres were alluding to, that sustain our families and our communities, even through the most trying of times. And speaking of those trying times, with the new normal, we feel like our learning environments have practically doubled. And there probably isn't anyone who doesn't feel like if they have children in their house, this is quite challenging. So in person, when our children are on campuses, we think that our learning environments are not about just refreshing painted walls, but affirming a sense of belonging and achievement for every kiddo. So their hallways should be lined with college collateral that might be reshaping some old narratives that are stuck to those old charts that we previously showed you. Because I'm sure you would all agree with me, certainly she is college material. But we also have to be creative about breaking down barriers in this remote COVID learning world. Like we did this past spring and summer by funding video equipment for teachers and providing whatever excess technical supports were needed for students before the district was able to roll out its IT plan. Because our children and our teachers and our community don't have a moment to waste. So, in addressing these decades of inequities, we stay lock in step with campuses through our school leaders, district with our expert staff, so that we can know just when, is it a reading intervention program or is it a new teacher training program that is needed? And of course, we don't want anyone involved in our work who doesn't completely appreciate that a child who is reading on grade level by 3rd grade is 3 times more likely to go on to college. So we want to make sure that EDs or principals or reading coaches have the opportunity to share out new ideas, innovative ideas that they are seeing and want to implement on their campuses. Similar to what you heard from Dr. Wilson on our network meeting, and maybe as you were reading from Dr. Hammond's approach to curriculum around historically and responsive education, so that the lessons can be rich in learning and affirming a student's identity, criticality, and obviously, ultimately, this is achievement, their achievement. And I hope that when you read that, you knew that it wasn't about teaching differently to a student who might be Black or Latinx, but it's embracing the science, again, getting back to the data and best practices, understanding the science of how learning works on any of our brains, and what the power of narrative and connection can do to sustain knowledge. And I would tell you, I think that's probably an area where our 1,000 tutors probably excel most. Even in this picture, yes, she is absolutely supplementing classroom learning, but these sessions are also about relationship building. Like when I was visiting another campus, and a Hockaday student actually was the one who was conducting the school tour of Chapel Hill Preparatory. She had stayed with her student for 3 years. And when I was there, she had a bundle of books under her arm that she had picked up over the weekend because she knew these were going to really excite her to tea, because apparently both of them loved soccer. She apparently was going on to play soccer post-graduation. So some of that might sound like a little bit of a light touch, but these kind of opportunities inform lessons and honor a child's interest, affirming their worth and sparking a real love of learning. Not only that, we believe that those kind of opportunities, and those where you see these gentlemen working on an outside garden that will also be used as an outside classroom, are bringing pride to our collective community by keeping us proximate. Yes, there's much to be learned from all of this data, and we share that out with our volunteers, our staff, our affinity groups through the Women's Forum, and the young professional leaders. But we also believe so strongly that unless we are locking arms with one another, we're really just going back to telling each other what to do. There was a United to Lead effort, which centers around our high school leaders and their education and enlightenment around systemic inequities. And at the close of that fellowship, one young man was presenting what his team had defined as ways to tackle pre-K enrollment. We were trying to think of ways to increase our pre-K enrollment. And isn't it interesting? We're sort of right back there. Different challenges, same issue. So the gentleman who was the chosen spokesman for the group, he was proudly explaining that he and his committee were going to do a walking tour of the neighborhood, conduct a survey, and then to continue to develop the plan. Well, one of the judges, it was actually Trustee Marshall, pushed him and said, are you kidding me? We need action. We need something to happen now. Why would you want to take the time to do a walking tour and to do the survey when you guys could come up with some ideas right now? I felt so sorry for the guy, but he was confident. He took a deep breath and he said, yes, sir, I agree. We need action, but I am a teenage senior. I don't know a thing about raising a pre-K child in poverty. With more information, I might be able to design something really smart and innovative. But first, I need to understand perspective, because we believe that perspective and progress go hand in hand at United to Learn. I'd love to take any questions you guys might have, if there's anything that I've shared that just needs some clarifying. But this is also our chance to listen to you. And so we'd also like to spend some time in some breakout groups and get more feedback from you on what you heard and also where else you think we should be headed. Am I hearing any questions? Okay, Anna, send us away. So I would love to ask, I think my group might have been group 1, so we'll wait till last. Can I ask group 5 if there was someone who wants to share just maybe 30 seconds of what you discussed? And by the way, we will take the notes from all the staff members who were in each one of your groups so that we as a team can learn more from the conversation.
There are 6 rooms, Abby.
Okay, let's start with room 6 then.
Was that ours, Caitlin?
Yes, that was ours. Heather's going to report out for us.
Okay.
Thank
We
you,
were
Heather.
right in the middle of more conversation. We didn't get to all the questions, but we had some good conversation. I think the big thing we talked about to start with was just that in terms of our understanding of the elements of equity and what United to Learn does, like we kind of understood, and for myself, I always understood like leveling the playing field for children in our community has an equity component. But I think in the last couple of meetings, we've really done more deep dives and really looked at the data around kind of the profound systemic inequities and having a greater appreciation for that and how we can kind of do a deeper dive to confront it. And then also, how do we come up with different strategies to kind of help and be a larger voice in the community? And Angela was kind of saying, you know, when somebody like Betsy DeVos, who's not a fan of public schools, I don't think, says something ridiculous, where does United to Learn fit in? And stepping up and confronting some of those, you know, issues. That's, I think, high level summary. We were having a lot of different discussions.
Great, thank you. How about group 5?
Group five was our group. William or Winifred, Amisha, Margaret, would one of you like to report out, or do you want me to go? I'd love to hear from one of you guys if you would.
I think Amisha should go.
Thank you for the nomination.
You're welcome. I thought you had some great points, and because I rambled a lot, you didn't get to talk as much as you should have.
No. I absolutely appreciated the points that you mentioned. So high level, we did discuss that we do think that there is a little bit more work that we can do, especially with our YPL groups, Women's Forum, just in terms of educating, just showing more of like why the work that we do matters, whether it's doing like a virtual tour of an elementary school so they can actually see what the balance is there and how they can then support the work that we do. We also talked about what it means to be a partner with United to Learn, and how as school liaisons, we can also bring those partners into the work that we do. Yeah, I think that's a good summary of everything. Did I capture everything well?
Yeah. Thanks, Misha. How about group 4?
That was our group. We had wonderful group members, Angie, Ashwina, Kelly, Lena, Megan, or Dottie. Would one of you guys like to share? If not, no problem. I took some good notes. Everyone had great comments. So I think one of the things that came out was one, just the excitement about expanding our footprint into the southern sector. We know that I think all of us going into this were aware of the inequities, but I think especially when we think about the focus on SEL and now in this new COVID world, how important empathy is. That was something that really resonated with us. We also really appreciated this idea that volunteers are long-term. We think that's a really important piece in the equity work, that it's not, those relationships are so crucial. And then we were also really happy just to see how responsive United to Learn was around the technology piece. So knowing that it is a huge equity issue to make learning possible in every household, and how responsive we were to that. And then finally, we just said, we know we all were able to hear from Dr. Boyce, and she had a wonderful training at Jack Lowe, and then since some of the ACE campuses as well, and how do we really prioritize having just these really dynamic trainers and even more of our schools to help us go deeper into the equity work.
Thanks, Christine. Group 3?
think that's our group. And Laura or Carolyn or Sophia or Anika?
Okay, I can do it. I can be quick. We introduced who we were for a little while because we didn't know each other. So that took some of our time, which I think was important, which probably would have happened in the real world where we all actually go into a room together. So we did that. I think everyone in the group, we had some people come later, but everyone early on really felt like the equity lens kind of is part of United to Learn, and that the partnership is always about collective partnerships. So that was something people talked about. And in terms of expanding, there was conversation about the expansion, and where we need to focus is on kind of the early end of school, but then also on the high school end, with the idea that so many high school students are not showing up, hard to be found. How do we help with that? And that was something people weren't interested in. Yeah, and that was it. I mean, there were a lot of us, and we talked a lot about things, but that's our summary.
Awesome. How about group 2?
This is Deanne, and I was tapped to report out for group 2. I think in reaction to or in answering question 1, did we realize the elements of the equity work? I think we are familiar with the pillars of the work of United to Learn. We did feel like that the work that is done, so certainly in each of the pillars and in social and emotional learning and in literacy, that what we do and what our programming is all about is addressing inequity and increasing access to education, access to learning. I think we believe that we can go broader and deeper. We believe that we have social responsibility in terms of education. We're aware of conversations around race and inequity that occur around the staff table, and think that there is opportunity for those same kinds of conversations to occur with school liaisons. Certainly with the increase, sort of the escalation of conversations around inequity and racial inequity, then as any number of us are white women going into marginalized schools, how are we perceived? Do we know how we are perceived by people who are different from us? And so there's probably some education for all of us as we do our work as school liaisons on our campuses. There's also room for education using the Women's Forum, for example. I think that's pretty much where we landed, but certainly understanding that all of what United to Learn does is around equity and access for our students.
Thanks, Deanne. And then I'm going to put maybe Dr. Hill on the spot and ask her to share out some of the ideas from our group.
Sure, I'm happy to. Thank you, Abby. Well, we had a lively discussion about areas that, first of all, looking at the research and being just pleased with how over time the research shows that the work that we're all engaged in on behalf of United to Learn is in fact making measurable gains for students. We also ended our conversation talking about a way to connect public and private school students with perhaps some sort of more of a business experience, so that students gain more social capital and understand different options rather than waiting for that to happen later. We talked about a lot of other things as well, but I think that encapsulates most of it. Does anyone else who was part of our group want to share? Anything I missed? Okay, thank you.
Byron, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about the fact that we talked about some potential explicit ways that we could dive deeper into the exchange of social capital between young people coming from different communities, and the very real sense that there's assets in youth coming from a lot of our public schools, and there are assets with, among youth and the families coming from other schools. Ashwini, that was actually a call out to what you brought up in one of the strategic planning sessions. So so I wanted to, that was connected to the conversation that Dr. Hill was mentioning there.
Thanks, Byron. Well, we'll take back a lot of your thoughts and ideas and continue to share back to you kind of where exactly we have taken your instruction, your thoughts, and incorporated further into our work. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Megan Hewitt. Megan is our Chief Advancement Officer and has really just hit the ground running in the last few months that she has been with us. So with that, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, everybody, for being here today and for all that you guys do for United to Learn. And I know that many of you contributed to our very successful learning launch and Norfolk's Giving Day initiative. So I want to give you a shout out, thanking you all for that as well. So can I have the next slide? So all of us are so excited to be expanding our reach to include 20 additional partner schools in Southern Dallas. And in order to support this expansion, we are launching a fundraising campaign. So through the Believe, Embrace, Unite campaign, we will raise $8 million over the next 3 years, and we'll support the expansion and support our work erasing inequities in student outcomes in our citywide partnership of schools. So as you can see through this initiative, we will be raising funds to spend an average of $49,000 will be invested per school each year over the next 3 years. We'll provide classroom resources for our 26,000 elementary students. And also the campaign will enable us to really expand our network to engage new organizations and new individuals and leverage thousands of volunteer efforts. Next slide, please. So here's how we're going to do it. I am happy to report that we are already 25% to our goal. 3 months into this fiscal year, we're 25% to our 3-year goal for the campaign. So we're very excited about that. The goal does, or the $2 million that we have raised to date does include a large commitment from the Harold Simmons Foundation, $500,000 of which came last year. So you'll see that that's how we reached the $500,000 mark in FY20. And then really by year, this campaign will help support our operating activities, which we know you can see we've planned that those activities will expand each year as we deepen our engagement in our partner schools. And we have assembled an amazing leadership team. So you'll see our campaign co-chairs, Margaret Hirsch, Kirk Reimer, and Miguel Solis. And they, as well as some other volunteer leaders of our effort, will be helping us to identify $4 in prospects for every $1 we need to raise for the campaign. So we're off to a really great start there. And I want to let Margaret talk a little bit about the beyond the co-chair's leadership, what these other roles are going to help us accomplish in the campaign.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Yes, I am so excited to be part of this Believe, Embrace, and Unite campaign. This is a truly just really impactful effort that they are making to expand the reach of United to Learn more citywide. And you know, one thing that I thought was so impressive about the expansion that I want to say just really quickly before we get into some of the nuts and bolts is that this expansion to the additional 20 schools was something that United to Learn didn't ask for. It wasn't something that they sought out. Dallas ISD saw the work that United to Learn was doing and requested that they support the additional schools. And I just think that this is so telling about United to Learn's impact, about their relationship with Dallas ISD, and with their potential to have real change and to provide real support and to really change the relationships between these schools and the entire Dallas community. So I just wanted to say that I think that is such a motivating factor in this campaign. So as we do support these schools, we are going to need to rely on all of our closest and best advocates. So many of you are on the Zoom call right now. So there are 2 additional volunteer roles that we have kind of structured out, and we will be asking our closest friends and supporters to play a part in this campaign. The first one is our champions. This is our fundraising brain trust. So these are the individuals who will let us know who else might want to contribute to this campaign and help us ask these people for their support. So we're going to be relying on them as kind of, helping us brainstorm who else would find this to be a very worthy cause and something that they see as a need in our community. We might also call on this group to sign letters or to host a small gathering to raise awareness about the campaign. It might be a virtual gathering considering the times. And then the endorsers are people who would not actively fundraise, but who want to support us in this effort, and they want to lend their name, they want to lend their influence. And so that is equally important. And of course, anyone who participates as either a champion or an endorser would be listed in our campaign materials and our collateral, because we do value that so much. And as our closest supporters, we would also be asking people in both of these groups to contribute in a way that is meaningful to them toward the campaign over the next 3 years. So as you can see, we have secured already a number of champions, and we're really excited to have the support of these initial group of leaders. And in the coming weeks, Kirk Reimer and Miguel Solis and I will be reaching out to a lot of the great supporters in this Zoom call and asking you to join our efforts as campaign champions or campaign endorsers. So I just want to say that we're really, really grateful to all of you for everything that you do year round to support United to Learn. It is so important to all of us. And as you know, this whole organization is really, truly based on the work of the people who volunteer and the people who lend their advice on the advisory board and the people who support all of the efforts of the very lean, mean machine that is the actual small group of employees. So thank you deeply for everything that you do now, and I look forward to being in touch with you later. That's it. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Margaret. Okay, next slide, please. So as Margaret said, you all on this Zoom are our greatest advocates and the best representatives of our work. And as we continue to go through the silent phase of our campaign this fall, and we look to introduce it publicly next calendar year, I want to make sure that all of our best friends and advocates can speak with comfort about our work and what it means to us, what it means to each of us personally. Beyond the facts and the figures and all the great statistics that we share, we want you to be able to tell your personal story of why United to Learn for you. So I'd like to take a little time in breakout rooms to discuss these questions. One is you have a lot of options in Dallas. There's so many organizations doing great work. So why do you personally work with United to Learn as a volunteer or as a donor? Why do you choose us? Also, how would you describe our work to others? And I think as we start going through this person by person, we might realize that there are some things that you don't know about what we do that would be useful, that we could help better share with our advocates so you can bring others into our network. And there are no right or wrong answers, so please just speak from your personal experience and your hearts. And I'm hoping that we all learn some really great, inspiring things about why we're here today. I think we're all back now. Thank you guys so much for taking some time to tell us about why you choose United to Learn. I think I was telling our group that even as a United to Learn employee, really immersed in the work, sometimes you go to a conference, someone says, what do you do and why? And you realize that you really put on the spot, and it's nice to have a chance to practice with friends why we do what we do. Anna, can you take me to the next slide, please? So I was thinking as I prepared for today that for me personally, there are so many statistics and things that we throw out at you all, so many facts. And I like to keep three recent current achievements in mind. Like it's nice for me to have kind of my top three. So my fall top three that I wanted to share with you all today is things I'm excited about, or we're growing. We were invited to expand our reach, welcome 20 additional schools in Southern Dallas. We're making a difference. We united this community to have our most successful learning lunch ever this year. I want you guys to know we raised over $230,000 to provide resources and supplies for our Dallas ISD educators and students. And then my third is that we're responsive to the needs of our partners. So we've always valued and provided programming around cultural competency, but like you heard earlier, we're working in real time, responding to our educators' request for more training around racial equity. So we've really doubled down our efforts to address inequity. So next for me, okay, so these are the FAQs. So we would love, as you talk to folks in your network who are so inspired by your passion for what we do, and if they want to get involved, we would love it. So how to get people involved, feel free to connect them with me or Abby or Carol, whoever from our staff you're most comfortable connecting friends with. We would love to have some new faces at our next network meeting. So please invite anyone you think might be interested, or feel free to send their email address to us and we'll put them on our list. And then they can get lots of great information from us via our website, our emails, and our social media. In particular, we have some great videos on YouTube that everybody should check out. Also, if it would be useful to you all, we'll follow up from this meeting with a cheat sheet of stats. I know it's comforting for me sometimes, even if I'm not going to spell out a bunch of percentages and growth numbers. I want to have those in my back pocket. So thank you guys so much. You are our best advocates, friends, and supporters, and we're so appreciative for all you do.
Okay, great. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is the bond. And today is the first day of early voting. And so we need your help, which is to vote and to talk to your friends. You can request a yard sign or use pre-scripted social posts. DallasVotesForKids.com is a great website that has been set up to support the bond. And since we care so much about our campus and learning environments, this is something that we all need to support. So talk to your friends and family about voting and encourage them to vote for the bond. And of course, it has that confusing statement on there saying that it will raise our taxes, but it actually will not. So if you need any help explaining that, we can forward an email to you that you can send to your friends as well. And then I think Ms. Torres wanted to share some quotes.
Yes, I have some quotes from some of our campuses and wanted to share what they have said about Learning Launch. United to Learn's Learning Launch has been key as they have supported us with many invaluable social emotional learning resources for our students and social emotional wellness for our teachers and adults. They have been an uplifting and extremely supportive ally that has re-energized the entire building, and that came from Jack Lowe. Also, we have United to Learn has been the strength of our campus, not only putting smiles on teachers' faces during the F3 tornado that destroyed our gym, but also during the pandemic with assisting us with SEL practices. We have received numerous donations for literacy, peaceful corners, gift cards, and food for staff during the tornado and pandemic, books and supplies for students, as the list goes on and on. It is not only the resources that they have provided to staff, students, and families, but also their time, commitment, and their continuous support. United to Learn has been a true partner for over 6 years, and they have assisted with closing the equity gaps in all areas, and that comes from Burnett Elementary. Woohoo! A few of many quotes that come from our campuses, but just wanted to make sure that I shared some of those with you as a group.
Thank you so much. We're so lucky to have you on our advisory council, Ms. Torres, and that you can keep us plugged in and really, really, really appreciate that feedback. I know that all the liaisons on this call are also really, really appreciating that positive feedback for all the effort that they are putting in. So as we close out, we just wanted to share a like, a learn, and a long for. So from the group, if anyone has to share something that they liked, something that they learned, and something that they long for.
I'll share a like. I think it's really amazing to see so many new faces, new people involved, but then at the same time, it's sort of a depiction of the organization because it feels like the depth of understanding of the people involved is expanding as the organization it expands its involvement, and it doesn't always happen that way. So I like that.
Do we have a learn?
I have a like and a learn. Can I cheat, Carol?
Go for it.
So I said this in my small group, but I don't know if I think I said I love the model of really partnering with school principals and really understanding the unique needs of students in schools. I was a former principal, and I was saying how much I would have appreciated having a United to Learn in my backyard. It would have been so wonderful. So I really, really love that component of the model. And in terms of learning, I'm really interested in learning more about how to do SEL virtually. It's come up as a real need from our school district partners, and I'm sure you all have some best practices. So would love to hear if there are any good tips out there on how to approach SEL in a virtual environment.
We have lots of tips on that from our SEL expert, Christine Lipschitz, who has now become our Chief Program Officer. And a long for, does anyone have a long for they want to share?
I'll go, Carol. I long for the day when we are sharing our data and there's no longer lower numbers for Brown and Black students. And I also long for the day when a lot of our systemic issues are addressed and there is true equity, not just only in our schools, but in our nation and in our world.
Amen to that. Well, thank you all so much. We'll give you some time back. And we want to just thank you again so much for every single one of you for the advice that you give on this advisory council, for the thoughts that you'll continue to have after the meeting that you can shoot to us, as well as to our entire liaison network who is working hand in hand with every single one of those elementary school principals. Have a great day.